The fated Genshin killer. Surely this is the game that can dethrone Genshin, right? Wuthering Waves was just released recently, and I made sure I was there on day one. Background information on me: I played Genshin Impact the week it came out and got bored of it in like a week. I found it too similar to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild to a point where I would much rather play Breath of the Wild than play its anime Walmart version. Genshin, in my opinion, didn't bring enough uniqueness for me to want to play it into its live service. I did give it another chance like a year or two ago, and I got bored of it again. I think Genshin is fine, especially for those that never played the masterpiece, Breath of the Wild, and even Tears of the Kingdom, but for someone like me, I couldn't stop wanting to compare the two just because of how similar it was. I also played Star Rail the week it came out, and I've been playing it religiously since then. I love turn-based games, and what Star Rail brings is very unique. It's similar to the Persona games, but very much different enough to where it stands on its own. Now bringing Wuthering Waves into the equation. At first, I wanted to keep Genshin Impact as much as I could out of my review as much as I could, but much how whenever I talk about Genshin Impact, I always fit Breath of the Wild into it. The similarities are there, and so it doesn't turn into a review, it just turns into, is Wuthering Waves better than Genshin Impact? In this review, I'm assuming that Wuthering Waves runs perfectly well. No withering frames, no withering textures, no withering servers, or whatever. Trust me, I went through problems like every single day, but I'm confident that it will be solved soon, so it's unfair if I deduct points on performance issues like that. I'm not gonna lie, the story is horrendously terrible. Ever had that friend that asks, "How's your day?" and you reply, "It's good." Then out of common courtesy, you ask back how their day is. Then they just start trauma dumping for the next hour, and you weren't ready or even care about anything that they say. That was my experience with Wuthering Waves. They have so much terms for things that don't need to be said. The game is originally made in China, so the names are based off of Chinese names, so having Chinese names is not where I have an issue. Remember, I play Star Rail religiously, but it's the way they introduce all these different names without explaining who, what, where, or even when these things happen. When they say a name, I don't know if it's a city, a person, or a region. I think once they had 3 different names in one sentence and had no idea what they were. The story is very exposition heavy, and it never gave me a reason to care about the story, and therefore I just tuned out. I'll take Star Rail for example. One of the places you will visit is Penacony, the Land of Dreams. It's a very beautiful place. It's basically the combination of Las Vegas and Disneyland, but it's also a lot of story and plot being told here. I would argue that there was a lot of reading in the Penacony arc. Lots of terms, places, and people, but I loved it. I cared. It had great characters involved. They made a lot of dots that were easy to identify. You could connect these dots, and the game helps you connect these dots along with you. If you thought about certain things logically, you could even connect your own dots and create really strong theories. Penacony was very, very lore heavy, but it was great, and I want to know more because of all the little things that they did to make it easier and more enjoyable for me as a player to uncover. Wuthering Waves was a pain to get through. I just did not care. I was confused, and it was not enjoyable. There are people that said around Act 5 and 6 was some of the best piece they've witnessed, and so I got pretty excited when I got to that point. But I was very disappointed afterwards. The voice acting was weird. It wasn't the voice actor's fault from what I've uncovered, it was more on the direction of what they were going for with the acting. It was a lot of showing than doing, and if they wanted to show things, then I'd go watch a movie. I'm playing an action game, I want to do things. There was a lot of stop and goes, especially on those last 2 acts. They also made you use trial characters, which I don't entirely oppose, but considering there's a prerequisite level you have to beat before you could even start the quest, it made the final battle not that special. Because it just felt scripted, in which the game made sure I had the right pieces, the right level, and the right gear, and the right echoes to beat the boss. I'm going to compare Star Rail into this. Maybe Genshin does this, I'm not so sure, you'll just have to let me know. But you have to use your own characters for boss fights, or just quote-unquote dungeon, so to speak, and if for story reasons you need to have a certain character on your team, for example, Jin Yuan. If you don't have Jin Yuan, you would use a trial character that the game offers you. And if you do have them, and you prefer yours over the trial character, then you could use your own. That way it feels like your own accomplishment. The entire end section for Wuthering Waves was entirely just trial characters, and that really annoyed me. I understand that you need these certain characters for the story, but can I at least use my own version of these characters? I won't lie, I don't think I even cared about Genshin Impact's story either, but it was more of how very simple and uninteresting it was. It probably got better with like the new like water zone with Furina or whatever it's called, but I couldn't bear with the start that I didn't want to read any more side quests to level up Trailblaze level, whatever the Genshin equivalent it was, to progress through the main quest. But Wuthering Waves, much like Genshin's story, left a sour taste with the intro missions, that it would be very, very hard to bring me back to want to care about what happens next. Hot take, I think Genshin Impact's characters are so much better than Wuthering Waves. I can't put my finger on it, but I think there's just isn't enough creativity or distinctness in the characters in Wuthering Waves. Just by going off like Genshin's like base roster, I thought Amber, Xingling, Fischl, and even Diluc were cool. I only like female Rover in Wuthering Waves. The other are like underage girls or dudes that are just not cool in my opinion. They're just not interesting. Remember, this is a gacha game. It's based off of characters, and so if I look at the banners and I don't think the characters are cool, I'll put my money elsewhere. I'll put it into Star Rail. The next banner for Star Rail is Jade and Firefly. Someone needs to hold me back from playing Star Rail. It's going to be an unhealthy addiction soon. Granted, this is still version 1.0 Wuthering Waves, and they could still introduce a lot of new characters in the future. I think Yinlin's coming out soon, which is a good start in my opinion. Wuthering Waves world, however, is really, really good. It has like this edginess to it that I don't see it in many other games like this. The only other game I can think of is like Scarlet Nexus, but I still prefer this one over that. There's a good like cohesiveness in the world, and things don't feel randomly placed here or there. Genshin's world, at least with Mondstadt, because that's pretty much all I played, is very vibrant, but it also feels like they just added stuff onto the world because they just needed stuff there, and it lacked like a real cohesiveness in the region. Again, they may have solved this with like the new water zone, whatever it's called, but I never really liked like the world in Genshin. My only real complaint with Wuthering Waves is that I wish some of these like different biomes were larger in size. They are very cool and unique to where I want to like take a stroll in it and get lost. Unfortunately, they are not as big as I hoped them to be, only because I wanted to see more of it. The actual combat was like the only thing I really enjoyed in Wuthering Waves. It's very flashy, it's fast paced, and it's just fun. It kind of reminds me of Scarlet Nexus, where there's an emphasis on swapping characters as you fight, as each character has an intro skill and an outro skill, which activates when you swap characters. I really liked this, especially when there are some cool abilities that happen with these swap skills. It can be like a basic AoE field that spawns for a short time, or something to like summoning a whole other entity doing like a huge slash attack as you swap. There are so many cool combos they can do with just swapping. That and just the normal pace of combat is really fast, really flashy, and really fun. This was probably the best thing I loved about Wuthering Waves. All I wanted to do was just fight people, because the combat was just very satisfying. So that made hunting echoes, almost equivalent to like light cones in Star Rail, enjoyable because I got to do what I love the most, fighting. And fighting just random things and being rewarded for doing so. The echo system is kind of like a Pokemon system in which you, after fighting monsters, there's a chance that a remnant of them is left behind for you to collect, and you can equip these echoes onto your characters for extra abilities to use in combat. There's a whole system with them, with substats, set bonuses, element matching, and the whole like min-maxing crowd. They'll really like this to fine-tune their build. The casuals don't really have to worry about the system. Again, it's like for min-maxing. But it is a really nice system to have. Exploring is really nice as well. You can sprint, double jump, and glide around the map. The cities are pretty big, but there's grapple points everywhere in the city, making traveling within the cities a bit more bearable. The best thing really is that you don't really climb walls, you get to run up the walls like a Giga Chad, making climbing or any sort of like vertical traveling a lot more convenient. And if there's like a hitch or a ledge that in like other games kind of act like a climbing barrier, you can just hop right over in Wuthering Waves. It's really nice. Their parkour is really good in pretty much all aspects, and it made traveling around this beautiful world an ease. To be fair, this is just version 1.0 of Wuthering Waves, meaning that they could easily change course if they wanted to, but they need to lean more into their strengths. Everyone pretty much doesn't like the story, and when you put so much exposition in the beginning that no one cares about or even understand, I think they just have to slowly move away from all that and just create something exciting. Making an exciting piece of story does not need to be complex. What they need to focus on, in my opinion, on future major updates, is more characters that are more interesting and have great designs, and making the experience of the story just much more exciting. That last act of this patch for me was underwhelming because 1, I wasn't using my actual team, 2, I didn't really know what I was fighting. I mean, that's partly because I tuned out of the story, so that's on me. 3, the area leading up to the boss fight was very scripted and a lot of like stop and goes. 4, the boss fight was not hard or challenging or cool in any way, and so that really ruined my experience. But the combat and exploration is one of the best I've seen in these type of games. But these were not the forefront features of like the main quest, so I really hope they lean more into their strengths, give us players more freedom in the future updates. Is Wuthering Waves the Genshin killer that everyone is talking about? Definitely not. I think it should be clear now that nothing can really break down a franchise as big as something like Genshin. It's just incorporated into the gaming culture that is just permanently there, just like how Pokemon is as a franchise. The Genshin stocks may be going down, and Wuthering Waves' like newness is helping it, but I don't think it'll be able to maintain this wave of players. All that Genshin really needs to do is to release a new female character trailer, and everyone in Genshin will be saying, "Oh, we are so back." If someone had to ask me right now, would I rather play Genshin Impact or Wuthering Waves? I would probably have to say Genshin Impact. Even though Wuthering Waves combat and exploration is fast, fluid, and exhilarating, I keep getting bogged down by story exposition that is both bloated and boring. The characters so far I don't really have any interest or care for, and during important story missions, I feel very on rails and restricted, which sucks for an open world game such as this one. This can all be fixed after a couple of updates down the road. For someone like me, who never really liked Genshin Impact to begin with, I would much rather play that than Wuthering Waves at this point in time. I do see a world where I come back and prefer Wuthering Waves, but that day is not today. Thank you for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe to this video if you like this type of content, and if you have any suggestions for any game that you want me to play, you can leave a comment down below or come join the Discord in the link below that I'm active in. See you guys later.